Top five, top five, top five.
Sun Talk will back with another video. I'm Strange Wang. He is Nate. Today we're doing a top 5 fantasy films in honor of Dungeons and Dragons. Nate is going to tell you how the top 5s work.
He's going to start with his 5 and 4. I'll give my 5 and 4, 3-2, 3-2. Then we trade off number ones. We also have something called the Zemeckis rule, which just means if we both have the same movie on our list, but one person has it 2 spots or higher, we just talk about it once.
My number 5 is going to be The Green Knight.
Still never saw it.
Based on the story, the fable, whatever you want to call it, from way back in the day. Very fun story. Not only do you get a little bit of action, you get a little bit of knowledge put on your dome. You learn a little bit. It asks you questions about yourself. Well, you can relate to yourself, you know. And that just makes for a good, interesting movie. The cinematography is amazing. It's incredible. And there's just a lot of tension because this dude is on a journey for his life. You know what I'm saying? Like, The Green Knight's a big deal. They build it up to be a very big deal. It feels like a big deal. So, the whole time you're just watching this character, just making sure he's safe so he can get to his impending doom and hopefully come out alive. It's a fun watch. Nice. Number 4, I don't know how much I would call this fantasy, but I saw it on there, so I'm going to use it. Big Fish, my number 4.
Oh, that's a Zemeckis.
Okay. And then 5 and 4, and you.
So my number 5 is Hook.
Arr.
Yeah, exactly. I freaking love this movie. I understand a lot of people don't like this movie. I did not know that a lot of people didn't like this movie until a couple years ago, but it is a very important piece of my childhood. And I feel like it encapsulates the fantasy genre really, really well because you have this absolutely like fantastical world. You have some like magic / mythical elements, like he can fly, there's fairies, you got mermaids, all this stuff's going on. The Lost Boys, they don't grow up. And you get freaking Rufio, who, when you're a kid growing up in the 90s, is the coolest motherfucker you've ever seen in your entire life. So, Hook's number 5.
Never seen it, but I do know Rufio's a nearsighted gynecologist.
Ew.
Number 4 for me, say it every time I get to do this. Anytime I get an excuse to put an animated movie on a just regular genre list, I'm going to do it. Number 4 for me is Howl's Moving Castle from Studio Ghibli. That's my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. Every fantasy, it's basically it's very fairy tale-ish in a lot of ways, but you got witches, you got Howl, who's basically he's a wizard, but he's also like a big bird demon. You got talking fires, voiced by the one and only Billy Crystal.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
See him later.
The animation in this is incredible. I really feel like when you take like the fantasy genre and make it animated, you can do so much cool stuff with it that you can't do with live action. But that only works if it's animated well, and this is definitely an example of that.
Plot twist. You used that movie had witches?
Yeah.
They're not witches. They're your wives. Not the anime movie I thought was going to be on your list. You may have another one.
Did you think it was going to be Onward?
No, I thought it was going to be Hercules.
Oh.
Hercules.
Yeah.
You fight dragons, dude.
Yeah,
Hercules.
it's definitely fantasy, but it's like historical. I don't know. It just didn't seem like it fit on my list.
Interessante. I took a franchise for my number 3.
Oh, you took a whole franchise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Harry Potter.
Okay, well that works out perfectly because I wasn't going to take the whole franchise, but the first Harry Potter is my number 3. So, I'll just change it. Take the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, the first one stands out because there's so much world building inside of the first one.
Yeah.
So that, like, sticks out the fantasy aspect very hard.
Mm-hmm.
But the other movies, they just build on it and give you so much character development that it's impossible not to care for these 3 kids.
Yeah.
Even that sometimes they can be annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Like friends sometimes, you know,
right.
Or like siblings. It gives you that vibe, that relatability to it, and it makes you care about them even more, I feel like, in that way, in that sense. So because of that, I adore the Harry Potter franchise. I haven't watched it a ton because it's a lot of fucking movies.
Yeah, it is.
But there's a lot of good stuff packed in there, and it's fantasy that I don't mind. Fantasy's not really a genre I go back to a lot.
Really?
This list, my 6th film was The Seventh Seal, and after that, it was nothing but animated movies if we did a top 10.
Yeah.
So, Harry Potter definitely made it. Very digestible fantasy for Strange Wang.
Yeah. My initial reaction was I was just going to pick one, and I picked the first one because I feel like the first 3 kind of have the most fantasy elements to them. The third one, you get more into the creatures. You get the Dementors. You get Buckbeak, the Time Turner, all that good stuff. The second one is basically like a dungeon, like adventure movie. And then the first one just introduces you to this world and the magic and
Hounds.
some of the stuff, right? So I was just going to pick the first one, but I think the whole franchise is a good take. And if you're doing it, I'm doing it.
That was my number 3. My number 2, 50-foot no man, swing swords like Conan. Conan the Barbarian. I love this motherfucker. He killing snake people. He's fucking big and strong. They said, Conan, what's the most important thing in life? He's talking about pillaging village, raping women.
What your ass say?
And other stuff. That was when he was bad, but it's a very iconic line because he says crisscross applesauce on the table and they're having a big feast and he's just big and shit. It's an amazing scene. But you got the will that he has to spin and everything. You got the revenge plot, the motivation. You saw his parents murdered in front of him in a beautiful fucking directed scene too, where you don't need to see James Earl Jones cut the head off, but you just see this little kid's face after seeing his father die. He just has like, he doesn't know how to react to this, you know? Because especially in the Conan universe, you know, a man had to be a man. So this little boy didn't want to cry. And then you just see the mother's head fall off. You don't see the face. You just see hair and blood, like, fall down past his face. And his, like, that's it. You know what I'm saying? And then comes Conan. He's big, strong. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, in turn, I love Conan. And I love that 50 Cent line. It's a good line.
Yeah.
Here at Sonotopical, we're unfortunately poor. And this money you see on screen, that's CGI. That's not real money. Because, again, we're poor. So, if you want to click in the ad eye in the corner, that video is monetized and we can make money off it. So, please go watch it.
And if you click an ad, we make more money. And if you really want to help, there's the thanks button right there below this video. So my number 3 was Harry Potter. My number 2 is actually going to be The Princess Bride.
What?
Boy, I think you do this just to be like, chill, that's number 1. You smoking crack?
I had it at number 1.
You smoking crack again?
No. I have my explanation prepared.
Princess Bride is my number 1. You get giant unusual rats. That's very,
Rodents of unusual size?
yeah.
I don't think they exist.
You have rodents of unusual size. That's fantasy. You got you'd love to know this movie way better than I do. Eels.
Yeah, the shrieking eels.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a giant...
Yeah.
The fire swamp
Pirates.
in itself. You have pirates. You get the like medieval like fantasy aspect of things. Even though she's not a witch, she's his wife.
Yeah.
They're still like the miracle
wizard,
workers.
yeah.
They're essentially some type of wizard
They have a torture chamber in a tree.
with like some odd machine that like sucks the literal life out of people. So, yeah.
You got my boy Michael Cotton down there running it. That dude's a weird looking cat. Like, a 6-fingered man. Like,
Yeah.
just every weird little scenario.
You got Spaniards, like, yeah, everything.
Fuck, this is gonna
Everything
come
you
up.
need.
It's just so many weird little scenarios and details that makes this movie so charming. That not only are you falling in love with the characters, you're falling in love with the world. Even the bad guys. We get introduced to 3 bad guys in the beginning. We love Fezzik. He wants to know if you want a peanut. We love Nico Montoya. Fucking adore to death with a Sicilian. Like,
Yeah, right.
he's such a fucking ass of himself.
Never started a land war in Asia.
Yeah, like, Wallace Shawn, you gotta love that motherfucker. The Dread Pirate Roberts, you learn who he is. You have this love, romantic aspect of it. And then you get a Prince Humperdinck, and he's a prick.
Humpadink, 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 Humpadink.
Like, even in Fright Night, he's an incredible bad guy. Underrated villain of the 80s for sure, in my book. But the Six Finger Man, I love that as well. Because dude gets carved up like a fucking turkey. You can have anything. I want my father back, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I can feel my eyes like welling up right now because there's so much emotion in this movie. There's so much comedy. There's the romance element. It has everything a movie could have in it. Fear, tension for our heroes, doubt, everything you could think about a movie character you can feel in this movie. Perfect breast. Like,
Shame to ruin them.
yeah, like, everything's in this movie. Like, Miracle Max, one of the most funniest scenes of all time.
Yeah, great
You
scene.
can go away, I call the Brute Squad. I'm on the Brute Squad.
You are the
Brute Squad. Like, oh my god, the tomatoes nice and... Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Mhm.
I can watch this movie all day. I'm disappointed it's not your number one.
He clearly said to blave,
I
which
don't-
we all know means to lie.
I don't know why it's not your number one. I'm curious to find out.
Yeah, so love The Princess Bride. Agree with absolutely everything you said about it. My number one was my Zemeckis from earlier, which is Big Fish. Both of these movies, top 10 movies of all time for me in terms of personal favorites. Love both of them a lot. Really, the reason I switched them, because I initially had Princess Bride as my number one, and then I switched before I came over.
Why are you doing this, man?
Just because of the list. It's a fantasy movie list, so I was just trying to consider what elements I think make a movie a fantasy movie. Princess Bride absolutely has those, but it's not the focus of the movie. It's all in like small doses. There's, massive like adventure elements to it, and there's lots of other elements to it. No doubt that it's a fantasy movie because it's on my list. Big Fish is just like the adjective of fantasy would be fantastical. It is maybe the most like fantastical movie I've ever seen. It is also like an over-exaggerated version of a fairy tale of like this guy's dad's life. You got giants, you got little people, you got dudes turning into fishes, you got guys managing to plant fields of daffodils all overnight. You got the town that's like doesn't age, but unless you're Helena Bonham Carter, and then you do age, and it's like, is it death? I don't know. But there's just so many like crazy fantasy elements to that, and the whole movie, you got a witch. The whole movie is this guy's dad's fantasy version of his life, and so the reason I made it my number one is just because to me that movie is just like entirely pure fantasy, where Princess Bride is like it's a storybook being read, and so like it falls back on like the fantasy label just a touch for me.
So, which one do you like more?
Oh, The Princess Bride.
Okay.
Like as like not making a list for a specific genre,
Yeah.
just what movie do you like more? The Princess
Okay.
Bride. Yeah.
And Big Fish.
We're men of action. Lies do not become us.
That is one which I wish was my wife, Helen Bonham Carter, future baby mama for sure. I mean, he's getting up in years. I don't know. That label might not be working. We might just be practicing. You know what I'm saying? But to me, the reason why I was even down, like I saw it, I was like, I guess that's a fantasy, because you go back to reality so much.
Oh, there goes gravity.
Fucking nematode. So,
Well, you do that in The Princess Bride too.
yeah, but like you go back more to Big Fish to me, and longer sections and chunks. Like the whole point, like not the point, the whole time he's like going through the garage. Like that's like 3 Princess Bride grandpa scenes, you know?
Maybe. I don't think they're that long, but
So I really like it though, because you do have that mystical fantasy thing blended in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my favorites. So I was going by what's digestible, what's palatable.
Sure.
Also fitting the genre. So it made my list. That movie makes me cry every single time. So does Princess Bride. That Inigo Montoya scene fucking kills me.
Mm.
It kills him too. But Big Fish, I don't even have a dad, dude. And I was fucking weeping. I remember the first time I watched it, I couldn't even see what was happening on the screen because I was just going fucking nuts. I was bawling like a baby.
Yeah.
I was going.
Yeah.
But
Shout out to my honorable mentions: Lord of the Rings and Pan's Labyrinth. It was a top 5 list, not a top 7.
Bruh. I almost made the thumbnail, and I was like, well, I guess I'll wait for him to leave Lord of the Rings on his list so I can, like, use specific character he said.
Yeah. If
But
this was
not
like
your
a
list.
just like non-biased list, Lord of the Rings would be on there, but it's just our personal favorites. So,
Oompa. Well, that's the top 5. Let us know your top 5 in the comment section below. Scroll back up, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.